Hello, everybody, and welcome back to WeVideo's weekly web series, the EdTech Spotlight. I am your host, as always, Ryan Kochevar, WeVideo's Director of Customer Engagement, and I am here with two fabulous New York educators for our show today on enhancing your lessons and lifting student voice through podcasting. I'm pleased to be joined by Alana, Winnick, and Marina, Lombardo. Hello, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Yeah, and great. And I see you're streaming live from the school site that I believe, Marina, that you work at. So which is exciting and to get streaming right from your classroom. Is that right?
Yeah, right from the classroom. Right. Maybe we'll once we're done, we'll give you a little tour, but I'm scared to move the camera placement now, but maybe at the end we can show you what it looks like.
Right on. Yeah. And again, thanks for joining today. And for those of you out there, we're going to be speaking with these fabulous educators about podcasting, and specifically talking through some ways in which I know your school district adopted WeVideo and the reasons for that adoption, and then kind of how it was implemented and integrated. And Marina's got some fantastic examples, I know, to share with us about the projects that you've done with our tool, and talk through some of the reasons why you chose video as the medium to instruct in for these projects, which is great. And then I know you have some student examples to share. You wouldn't share what kinds of examples you were sharing, so I'm excited to hear and see the surprises that you've brought with us. But before we jump in, just wanted to let everyone out there viewing us today live that if you can't stay the whole time and can't listen to this event for the entirety of the 45 minutes to an hour that I will have with you today, you can always stream this on demand through StreamYard after we're done, or access that on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@WeVideo. It will be there for you on demand as soon as we wrap the recording today. So wanted to get started with the both of you in chatting about like how, what your roles are, and how you came to kind of be sort of plugged in with WeVideo. Share a little bit about yourselves with our audience. So I'll go ahead and ask you to do that.
So my role at Mechanical Hills is I'm the Educational Technology Director and Data Protection Officer. I also sit on the board of NICEGATE, which is like the New York State ISTE affiliate. And as a fellow podcaster myself, I think that podcasting is important, and we'll get into that in a little while. But first, and then before I pass it to Marina, I wanted to share my story of why we chose WeVideo. So during the pandemic, it's a very challenging time, obviously, in many ways. But when we were having our students create projects, we had local video editing software on the machines, and that didn't really lend itself nicely for collaboration in a time when maybe not every child was in school together. We did have some Macs. We had iMovie, we had Windows Movie Maker, but none of it was collaborative, and none of it really allowed students to use it anytime, anywhere, and collaborate on projects. So if a child was absent and it was on one machine, then the rest of the group couldn't work on it. So I was struggling with how can we do innovative projects in a way that really worked for the environment that we lived in. And WeVideo was a really, really amazing solution for us. And it provided have it for every single student. I think it starts in second grade. It might be first. Like, don't quote me on it, but every single child has it. I felt like what I wanted to provide my students within my district was a robust toolkit so that they can do anything, anytime, anywhere. And one of the tools in that toolbox for innovation and creativity is a video or audio editing software. And so WeVideo is one of our favorite tools in our toolbox. Mm-hmm. And I really strive to empower educators and students to share their voices with just beyond the confines of their own four walls of their classroom. I think that's an incredibly important thing. Absolutely. For them to share their work and know their work has a larger audience than just this room. And one of the teachers I always try everything with is Marina. So I'm going to pass it to Marina, and then, we could circle back to me, but I wanted you to understand how the story evolved.
Totally. Thank you.
Marina.
Great. Well, thank you. My name is Marina. Hi, I'm Marina, and I'm a third grade general education teacher. I've been teaching for A while, about 17 years. So my projects that I did 17 years ago have emerged with all of the technology and access to technology that's also evolved and been available. And what I've really been doing with WeVideo is supporting students to take their authentic writing pieces and use it as a way to build multimodal pieces that are reflective of the world that we live in. So spending time dabbling with the video and now the audio components for podcasting, to me, is very, very relevant to the world that we live in, because
For sure.
that's what people listen to.
Yeah.
We listen to podcasts.
Yes.
I mean, like, I have a podcast and we listen to podcasts. We're constantly sending each other podcasts.
Yeah.
So we kind of were like, hey, this is real life. These are real life ways of learning that we learn in. And why can't our students learn through podcasts? And why can't students create their own podcasts? So that's kind of how this evolved.
And I like the word evolution or evolve that you use, and I'm going to hope to tap into some of that today, because 17 years, that's you've started at a time when technology may have been emergent, and there were some technologies available to classroom educators, but there was no real effort, I think, or maybe not a real effort, but very little effort to sort of integrate that meaningfully with the support of administrators or directors of technology. And fast forward 17 years forward, now we have roles at school districts that are designed to do that kind of thing. So I'm interested to also hear about how that evolved for you, and what you saw technologically, when you first started to today, when you're doing these podcasting projects, because like you said, the world has evolved also since then. And maybe, 17 years ago, podcasts were not much of a thing, but today they very much are. And you're right. They're a medium in which a lot of people participate in, a lot of people get knowledge from, a lot of people share knowledge through. And so I think that's something that we'll want to focus in on as we get down into like the specific projects you designed, how you got to where you are today.
Cool. I'm happy to talk about it.
Great. So I do want to start though, but let's start there. Actually, let's start not quite like in present day, but sort of take me through sort of both of your journeys to technology, and what, like, how did you end up, Alana, in your role as a director of technology? What was that first sort of inroad for you, where you had that aha moment that education technology is going to do something very meaningful for the students and have an impact on students? So I'd love to kind of hear from each of you.
I mean, that's like the most challenging question ever, and I could probably talk about that for an hour.
Sure.
I actually did not choose this path. It really chose me. And the past 4 jobs I've had did not exist before me and were created for me. So my journey is a little bit interesting. I've actually been interviewed on podcasts about my journey. So they're out there. But really, I was an elementary educator, which is probably why I love so much being in the elementary school, because it's, it's my my background. And I think for me, it was a very challenging time when I first became an educator, and it was nearly impossible to find a job, and every job I was finding was a leave replacement. And to stand out, I got a master's in educational technology. I did not know that it was a job. I was just trying to make myself look different than everyone else who was going back for special ed or literacy. And never did I dream that that was ever going to be a job. And I took a job because I didn't want to be a substitute teacher, because we all know we don't need to even talk about how the children behave when they have a sub. So we'll skip that. But I decided to take on a job that gave me security and benefits and a pension and all the things. So I became a computer lab teaching assistant while I was looking for a teaching job. And I basically automated my whole job. And they were like, well, this girl's going to leave the second she finds a teaching job. And they created a job as an educational technology specialist, where I did a lot of pushing in the classrooms, like sort of like the projects I do with Marina, except now I obviously have a lot more responsibility. But that's how I got into it, because I automated my job and I started doing the job I was passionate about, and they created the position. And that evolution went to working for the state, supporting 48 districts. And then during the pandemic, one of them, Bacanico Hills, was like, we don't want to share you anymore. We need someone full time, because this is a big thing going on right now in the world. And I came here full time So that was sort of my evolution. But
Yeah.
I think what makes me a bit different than some other directors of technology is that I really try to prioritize my time in the classroom, because I think that it's really important to see how my decisions impact teaching and learning, and see how it, I mean, how often am I in? I know all of our kids by first name. Like, I think that it's incredibly important as a leader to walk the halls, to visit the classrooms, to be a part of innovation, and see if it's working or not, because you need to know if your decisions are, making the correct impact you want them to make.
Totally. So Marina, from the classroom perspective on that, like what was your sort of, I don't know, aha moment, right? When you've tried, or even your first project, if failure or something, like what brought you in, what sucked you in, what kept you sort of motivated to continue to learn and continue to explore? Because it sounds like you have a great deal of support that maybe other teachers might not, but how about your story?
Okay. Well, I think that I really try to be somebody who looks at the world with completely wide eyes and take in what's around me. I think about just my own upbringing, my own schooling experiences, growing up in the 90s, and what I wish I had more of. As I've done like a lot of reflecting on my childhood, I think about how there was one computer in a classroom, and that was just kind of like for playing games on a rotation, and I wasn't really getting any instruction on that, but that's just how it was. And now to be living in a time where we're walking around with computers in our pockets and recording devices in our pockets all the time, and to think about what we can make, because at the heart of it, I'm somebody who loves to write. And that's really my passion. My passion has always been, aside from the technology, is to help students to find their passion, leverage their passions, because maybe they already know what they are, and to really begin to express themselves in a way that feels right for them. I'm not really a one size fits all kind of teacher, because I wasn't really a one size fits all kind of kid. And I think that that's really impacted me as an educator. And technology is all around us, and I believe lean into it, because it's here. This is how all of us are getting information these days. So we have not just a responsibility, but we have like a creative responsibility, I think, to be offering the skills that go along with using technology to make our voices heard, and and also the way the communication that goes along with that too.
And I think also, I know that Marina, like, she is all about literacy. She has a background in literacy, and I think what's beautiful about what she does with her students is that they don't even realize that they're writing. They have no idea that they're writing, and then they're turning their writing into creations. And what I really want to tie it back to is, I guess, what I'm known for in the world right now is about generative artificial intelligence and the future of education. And I talk a lot about that. That's what my whole podcast is about, and that's what my book is about, and that's what I speak about most of the time, and not all the time. But when people ask me, I mean, I focus more on the future of education and not the AI itself. In a world where artificial intelligence can pretty much produce many of the end products for us within seconds, it really needs to be more about this learning process. And it really needs to be like, okay, Marina could give her students an assignment. Can they pop it in an AI and get an answer? Probably. But now if they have to take that and apply it and create something like a podcast, that's sort of AI proof, right? And that's applying their knowledge. They might have used AI to help them get there, but it's really applying their knowledge. So in this one lesson we're going to share with you, we have two things to share with you, but one of them is a lesson. It's a podcast that the students are working on about perseverance. It's called the Perseverance Pod. And they all had to research someone who had to persevere through challenging times, and then connect it to their own perseverance in how they persevered through something. And Marina's going to be releasing one episode a week over the summer to families. So I thought that was really cute. But going back to AI, did the kids use them? did the kids use AI to help them with their research? Absolutely. They absolutely used AI to help them with their research and backed it up with reliable resources. They 100% used AI to do this, but they I call it being an AI DJ, and they remix to make it their own, to have their own voice, their own opinions. And when you listen to their podcasters, you're not going to be like, yep, AI made that. There's no chance you would ever think that, right? But they did use AI.
They did use it to support them in their researching efforts and gain credible sources. Yeah.
And you can't artificially create a lived experience on their side. So if they're connecting this, they're applying critical analysis of the research they've done and then connecting it to their own lives and learning how to communicate that. That is not something that can be artificially made that's authentic, right? And I think that's a great point that you bring up about the learning process itself. Yes, we can use tools that will help us, produce something maybe faster than we might have previously been able to do it. But I like your phrase of the remix of what it gives you, because that's also an application of skill in and of itself. And then the point of it is to create an artifact of something that you're communicating to share your learning about that topic.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about this idea of creation versus consumption.
Right.
And if you're in a traditional type of classroom, I don't really like to use the word traditional. That's another one of our inside jokes. But more of a lecture style, teacher-centered classroom where you're imparting knowledge and the students are just consumers of knowledge. And, a podcast, listening to one is consuming, but if every child's making one, they're more likely to, listen to their peers and being a different instructor each time. But I'm not even talking about that. The creation of knowledge, I think, is so much deeper and so much more impactful. You can listen to a lot of podcasts, but then the creation of it, I think, is what really drills it home for them. They're going to remember a lot of these experiences that we gave them forever because they were active participants in their learning journey.
Right. And
it's actually been a very reflective experience too, and very iterative process. And just thinking about what Alana was sharing, as the kids work on their podcast, sometimes we're highlighting one particular student's work and the kids might be listening, whether it's just over snack or whether it's for a lesson, and they're cheering one another on. First of all, there's some encouragement that comes from the success of your shared community member, but also learning from one another, whether it's kind of looking at how the tracks are laid, discovering the fade component. I know I'm getting a little technical with some of the things, but some of it is the technical side of it. And then the other part is that, the kids it started with me interviewing kids to help them start telling their stories. And then as more kids were interviewed by me, they started taking over the job as the interviewer for their peers.
Oh, and they've been getting very good at this. So we also I had them present virtually at a regional conference, and they were here in this classroom and I was at the conference, and we Zoomed, and it was like Ignite style, one kid, one slide, 1 minute. And rotate. And a few of them presented on WeVideo. We have all this stuff for you, by the way. If you're at ISTE, we're going to be sharing this. But they were, when we were doing the practice rounds, they were giving each other feedback, really incredible feedback.
Yeah.
So you feel like as they watch us model feedback, they're now really pushing each other's thinking and asking follow-up. They are really good at asking follow-up questions.
And that's the off-screen work, right? So that's off-screen work, right? Yep, so it's totally like a blended experience for the kids. And then also those are the skills that you need to be successful in life. So again, going back to having real experiences, real authentic learning experiences that you can take from one place to the next.
Our lights went off.
The interviewing and having conversations and reflecting.
Our lights went off. I just had to turn my no, and I always say, really at our core as educators is to prepare students to be successful for their future. That's our job, right?
Absolutely.
And every student might need something different. That's why we have accessibility, and equitable is not always equal. But providing students with the tools that they need in their future is so incredibly important. And I really believe that video and audio editing. I mean, yes, maybe AI could do some of it for us, but like learning how to ask the right questions and knowing how to produce and create content will most likely be in all of their futures at some point or another. So I think this is very authentic and very, very important for, I wish that every child that graduates from this district will have those skills. That's my hopes for every graduate.
Yeah. And I think it's a great hope, a great sort of, it's great to put that into relief, right? Because I think that is an incredibly important part of what we're doing in education, is to provide each student with the means and the tools necessary so that they can have a successful future and connect things in the real world to things that they're doing in school, which is something that technology allows for. And what you're doing is taking it a step further and even providing that analysis piece as young as a third grade classroom, right? And the younger you offer these opportunities, the more opportunities they will then get as they graduate, throughout the grades. And producing media is something I heard you say about producing content, being content creators. And that's a big thing, right? YouTubers, content creators.
Well, but they all want to be YouTubers, right? They all want that. No, but that is a job. That's a real job. There's influencers, there's people that are just in marketing. There's people that are like, there's people, they might not be the content creator, but they're the one managing it. There's a whole art and science to all of that. But also what I was just thinking about, did I forget? I was thinking about something. It was such a good thing to say. No, I can't remember. But oh man, now it slipped my mind.
Maybe it'll come to you as we dig into this next little portion here about getting into the project, because I know that.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Go for it.
Okay, so what I was going to say is so an example is one of her students, going to be unnamed, she's not classified dyslexic, but she may potentially be, and no names. And I just want to say there's just because you can't read and write in a traditional sense does not mean you cannot read and write. My best friend's husband's blind. He can't read, but he plays fantasy football on his phone, right? Like there's non-traditional ways of reading and writing. And if a student is not able to express themselves in a traditional way of reading and writing, that student thrives on WeVideo. Thrives, right? And
we've had a lot of students thrive. Some of the students that are a bit more introverted too, actually, not the kids who are raising their hands and getting up in front of the class. And those are my people. I think about them often, and what they are putting together, is pretty incredible, because that's how they feel good. That's a preferred way of communication for them and expression.
And that's something I hear a lot, is that some of the shyer kids may have a hard time expressing themselves in front of the rest of their peers in that moment when they're live with the rest of everyone else, have the ability to share their story or put their voice out into the world through a medium like podcasting or video, without maybe so much of the pressure of doing it like in that moment. Right. And it provides that differentiator for those students to actually have a medium to do that with. So let's talk about the project specifically. And I want to set us up for this, because I know that when I talk to you, a lot of the work I did prior to coming to WeVideo was in maker education. And a lot of what you're talking about also resonates in that world, right? In like the creation of something, the making of an artifact often helps to codify learning in a much better way than just reading something or even writing something does. And so I think video, and you mentioned multimodal earlier, and creating those experiences is just a great way to encapsulate like what a student learns and sharing that across multiple dimensions, right? So when I initially had reached out and we started talking about what we wanted to share, the idea of podcasting with WeVideo isn't really a thing that many people know about necessarily. It's not the first thing that comes to somebody's mind when they think of WeVideo, right? So your podcasting example is something that is interesting to me, from the sense that like this is an alternative kind of artifact that you can produce in WeVideo. And so take me through kind of like the decision to move I know you have 2 projects, right? And so we can go in either direction with either
Well,
of those.
The first one, before we move into the project, we have a
Okay.
little surprise for you.
Okay.
So we had 2 students who were actually in here working on their podcast, and I was going to surprise you, and I asked their parents for permission if they could join us, and we're like, oh, let's not do that. But what we decided to do was have them interview each other, and we recorded it.
Okay,
So
great.
we wanted them to tell you what they thought about podcasting with WeVideo.
Sweet. Let's do it. I love it.
Yeah, I thought you'd love that. So again, this is like a really raw video. We didn't even have time to put like subtitles or make it flashy, which normally the kids are really good at and you'll get a sense of, but we're going to just show you this little video.
Great. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Ava and Kent Show. Today we'll talk about crazy things, like about podcasts. So, do you like podcasting? And don't say yes or no. A challenge, okay? Let's see. A little bit. I didn't say yes or no. Why? Well, I didn't get to ask my question. Do you like podcasting? Well, with my brain, I will calculate. I like him. Never said yes. Wait, I just said yes. No. You just said no. Why do you like podcasting? So I like showing stories to the whole entire world. Okay, Kent. So what skills did we learn? Interviewing, asking follow-up questions, editing, uploading media. Okay, so what was your biggest challenge? Background noise. Did you just hear the bell? That was background noise. Okay, so now let's do a demonstration. Like the bell. Okay. Yeah. Hi guys. I'm going to tell you. That's a demonstration. Another challenge is one of the people who are helping us, Miss Lombardo, which is also our teacher. She sometimes erases things that I the first one. We just did a Kent and Ava show, but our teacher just deleted it. Or maybe if she forgets to turn on the microphone or she forgets to start recording. Would you keep using WeVideo next year, even if your teacher didn't use it anymore? Like the different teacher? Oh, I would definitely use WeVideo. I mean, what would you use it for? Making videos. Like about what? About me. And what you like? I don't know. I like gaming and I don't know what. Rubik's Cube solving? Maybe you should make one about how you can solve a Rubik's Cube. Bye. Thanks for watching our video on the Kent and Ava show.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
That's cute, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. It was a great plug for WeVideo for next year too. Whoever their teacher is, I think we're going to have some advocates to make sure that they're still using the product.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah.
They had a lot of fun with that.
I could tell.
In case you couldn't tell, in case you could not tell, they really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
They even threw their teacher under the bus.
Well, I think that we've together as a group, like not just my kids, me, like I wasn't using podcasting before this year on WeVideo. I was just really using the videos and I'm still figuring it out myself. I'm not trying to pretend like I know how to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kids know more than I do
Yeah.
and they're showing me, oh, did you know you could do this?
Yeah.
So I've been like playing around with the audio and everything. And yeah, a couple times I did delete their stuff and I felt awful.
No.
But you know what I attribute it to? And I've said this to kids for years. There's always things that happen on the computer, right? You accidentally lose something that you wrote. And, I always say, listen, the second time is always better anyway. That was just your sloppy copy and this is going to be even better. So it works. It works out, and we're learning. And we've kind of been joking as a class, especially with those two, how we did this whole we still are doing Perseverance podcast. And the whole experience has been about perseverance.
Yeah.
Because, we could get really upset when all these things happen, when we make a mistake, when there's all that background noise, when we say and like and all the disruptions, or we could try to figure out, well, what are the other ways to work around this? I mean, this is a whole industry and people have solutions to these problems. So let's figure it out. So, there's another layer to this work. It's the problem solving and collaborative teamwork that goes along with it.
Yeah, background noise. That's always a challenge with a classroom full of kids. But like you said, not letting that kind of be a barrier to feeling like you're successful with what you're doing, and you're utilizing problem solving to get around some of what they may have as perceived challenges. So with that, what was the decision? So it sounds like this project, at least when we were talking, this project is something you had done in the past. And so how did it move to become a podcasting project? Because like you just mentioned, this was the first year, it sounds like, that you sort of were exploring the WeVideo podcasting tools. And that's, we didn't have the ability necessarily to export as easily as an MP3 in the past. Now we do. So now you can bring some of those more audio-based mediums into content creation. So what was that for you? What was sort of the deciding factor to take this project and create a podcast? Was it a video project before this? Was it just a traditional pencil paper project before this? Like, take me through the sort of evolution of this project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been teaching third grade in our district for about 5 years, and I've taught in other upper elementary grades, and many years, as well as in this third grade group, we've done work around biography units. So we're reading biographies and researching and then writing biographies. And over the past few years, I've kind of tinkered with a couple of different approaches to having the kids publish their work. And I would say that I have been listening to just a lot of my own personal podcasts recently, a lot of Audible books. And I did come across one podcast for children that is it's around all females, and it's I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's a whole collection, and it's all biographies, and it's told like in a very whimsical way through a podcast. And I said to myself, that's a really great way to have the kids publish. There was another layer of it that I had as well, too. I had also been doing a lot of research around oral reading fluency. And I really wanted to support my kids in reading more as well, too, and getting their eyes more on print and having more repeated reading, which that can be a real challenge to get kids to want to read something more than once.
Sure.
And using the podcasting also got them really interested in rereading and listening to themselves read and then going back and correcting it. So, yes, there's all those elements of like the editing too, but then there was also this attention that they were giving to fluency, their speaking fluency, as well as their oral reading fluency, and being natural and having expression. And that's always developing the more we encounter complex language and our thinking. So I just really wanted to take this to a place where it was going to be attractive to the children, that they were going to be excited by it, that they were going to want to go back in and revise, whether it was their writing or the way that they were showing their writing. Yeah. And they went for it. They liked it. So
motivating. Sounds like it was very motivating for them to do this too.
Yeah. They love it. I mean, and when she shares them, I'm not here, all day, every day, but I have walked in and there was her sharing it on the board, and the kids are literally cheering for each other. It's really cute.
And so when you said, so part of the design of this project, and I love that you've connected this to, to components of literacy that are being, right? Like we're assessing students on these different components of literacy, and you found a way to tie those threads together in an engaging and in motivating project where they're now willing to do the work that's necessary to, develop these skills and for you to see improvement along those different oral fluencies or even if it's like listening or speaking skills, that you're getting kids to listen to themselves read, which I know adults that don't want to hear. Like when I first got into this, I hated hearing my voiceover. I go back and re-listen to an episode that I'd done 3 years ago, and it's like, oh my gosh, so to get kids to be able to do that, I feel like that's a challenge.
They listen to themselves and then they want to go back and redo it. But I think so. It's really cute. The time that we recorded it and she deleted it, one of the challenges that they talked about was one of the students didn't realize that they could edit out likes and ums and parts of it. And they're like, it's really challenging because I have to do it over and over and over. And the other one was like, can't you just edit that part out? They're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
It's super tedious. That's tedious. So maybe you do want to go back and record it if you have too many ums, but you can edit it out.
Yeah. But they do try to get it perfect. And I mean, if you were going to just tell a kid, okay, you have to read this book, they're not going to go back and reread. But if they are listening to themselves being recorded, they're going to want to make it perfect and they're going to go back and fix it.
That's a whole nother layer to this that you unlock in a literacy, based activity or in a literacy infused classroom, which is fantastic. And that's something, again, when we were talking, it was like light bulb for me, like, oh yeah, that's a perfect application of this technology to allow students to practice oral fluency skills. So, so the product itself, you were talking about connecting, you'd listen to these podcasts, which is great. Again, like I just feel this really great and intentional design on your part to pull things in from the real world, connect them to academic standards, and provide these learning experiences that are based in all kinds of different curricular areas, right? As elementary teachers tend to do, you're teaching all the subjects. So there's great opportunities to cross over. And this sounded like it was a great opportunity for you to do that.
Well, that's one of the reasons she came back to elementary. She was in 5th grade when I first met her, and she really wanted to have her students all day long so that she could do more of this type of stuff.
Yeah. And so what's the length? So take me through, right? And I do want to get to some finished exams because I know you've brought some along with you. But when this started, how long is this built in as a unit, or did it add any length to sort of the project that you had been doing? Like take me through like the time it took to get everybody sort of up to the level and finished products that you wanted to see from them.
Yeah, so it's typically a 6-week unit. And, of course, there's some breaks in there. And within that unit, there's teaching research skills as well as now going through some different structures of writing and adding voice, making sure that you've got some accurate facts, making sure that everything is connected and cohesive. So spending time with that drafting and going through it, that part took the full 6 weeks. And now what we've been doing actually since that was in maybe like early spring, early springish. What we've been doing now is we've been adding in the layer of the personal story, the personal connection. And it's so cute because it's one long stream, but they're calling them, I didn't do this. The kids came up with this episode 1, episode 2, and they've basically, it's basically like they've created chapters for this podcast that they're creating. So episode 1 is really about them. And episode 2 is where they're taking this biography that they wrote, and now they're actually reading it out loud. And what's been really great, as some of them are still also they're reading these biographies now that they wrote a couple months ago, and they're putting another eye on it couple weeks later, couple months later, and now they're like, oh, wait a second, now I might change the way that sounds around a little bit, or that doesn't make sense. And I personally, as an educator, really love that reflective, iterative work of writing and going back to pieces that you did previously. I think that there's some pieces that were like, okay, that one's done and we move on. And then there's some things that we go back and say, well, now's the time for you to also think about like how much you've grown as a writer and a thinker. And what else can you do with this?
Yeah, that's that reflective piece you're talking about adding in, but also I feel like the nature of a writing assignment is I do it and it goes into my portfolio or whatever, and I don't touch it again. It's just this thing I did in November.
Yeah.
And like, it's gone away from my brain and I don't have to come back to it. Maybe at open house, I show my parents this piece of work, but I've not had to go back and look at it, or I've not had to go back and consider how I grew. So that's a really great opportunity to reflect on that. And it's cool that you give it some time, I feel like, in between the actual initial maybe production of the piece of writing and the initial maybe version of the podcast. And then you go and edit and revise based on, what needs to be changed or what they hear that second or even third time.
Yeah.
Editing and revising skills. It's all, you're putting all of this together in this package.
No.
Yeah.
And if you can get them to want to go back and do that, that is a success.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I also love just making that connection back to themselves, because that's like really AI proofing it all,
Reflection. Yeah. The ability to want to understand where you've come from, where you're growing, what maybe you still feel like you identify as things that I could have done differently next time, or I can change in the editing process or whatever, right? That's all from within.
Another thing I wanted to mention was the hardware. So you noticed that they were using these microphones, and we're using it now too. I felt like it was important. So they do have a headset with a built-in mic, but I feel like it's important to have a piece of hardware like this if you can afford it, because it really forces the students. They know they're doing something serious. They know that it's a different mindset than their normal headset and microphone. This is serious. We mean business. We're all going to be respectful, hopefully, and not have background noise like you heard them say. And we're going to record. And this is a serious thing. And I think that if you can afford to buy however many you can of a different piece of hardware that just makes the experience feel a little bit different. They know that they can make WeVideos on their own whenever they want with their headsets, and that, or no headset at home if there's no noise. But I think that when you're doing a serious project, having a serious piece of hardware brings a little bit more I
love when I'm like, get the mics, and it's and they're like holding them. They're serious. They take very good care of it. They know how to set it up. They know how to check their microphone. We've done a lot of really nice work with like hardware too with this group of kids.
And there's different settings. I don't know if you could see it. And they've learned like if it's just me and you, or the setting if it's me interviewing you and it's back and forth. So they're learning a lot about technology too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a serious podcaster microphone too, right? So that's why you get it out. And this is serious business now, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's share some examples of the finished product. You talked a lot about the kind of the whys and the hows, and let's see if we can share maybe one piece from a student.
We have little clips of a bunch of them. Great. So
perfect.
Which is there ones you want to?
We can do this one. Oh yeah, this will be nice leading into a story. Yeah.
Okay, share this tab instead.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Baron to overcome her own challenges. Before we start, though, let me tell you my definition of perseverance. In my opinion, perseverance is working hard and never giving up. Now, here's a story about how I learned what perseverance really is. When I learned
a little bit of
perseverance, I was on my pogo stick. It was hard at first because I had to balance and jump.
Tell me about the day when you...
So that's you interviewing them.
Yes. Pogo stick.
Yeah.
Well, when I first got my pogo stick, it was my birthday, and there was a parking lot, so I tried to do it on my parking lot, and I kept falling off. I felt sad because I couldn't jump on my pogo stick. I set a goal.
Should I do another one?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do another one.
Was that script that was being read from? And that this is something that I hear a lot about. That script writing happens, and then you're reading from your script and recording your podcast.
That actually wasn't a script.
Okay.
That was just the conversation.
Cool.
And then we did some editing where we clipped out some of the longer places. We had, like you said before, like there were just some places that were a little bit trickier to kind of like play with. So we left in some long pauses which, you know, we also know long pauses is thinking and getting your mind ready for what you want to say. So we learned a lot through that. So that was one example. This student actually started taking over some of the podcasting.
You'll notice that they start interviewing each other. So Marina did the first few, and then as they learned interview skills, they started asking follow-up questions to each other. Here's another one.
Great.
Just jumping on one foot, crisscross jumping. That's we're not doing it. And we had to do lots of tricks. I practiced a lot of times, and also I made my spins for my jump roping faster. And then I was able to jump rope better. And because I practiced, that's the key word for today. I was able to get better, and I was able to be energized. And I'm actually always energized, so that's why it's kind of hard for me sleeping. So
okay, I think we have a couple more.
Okay.
Just a couple little clips.
Yeah, we have time for a couple clips. These are great.
Hi there. I hope you enjoyed my story about when I wasn't sure I could make my soccer team. Not only do we learn about perseverance from our experiences, we also learn from others. This year, I spent many weeks learning all about Taylor Swift and a challenge that she faced. I'm so excited to share my biography with you in episode 2. So here we go. There once was a girl that had a talent as being an amazing singer. That girl is now a woman, and that woman is Taylor Allison Swift. Taylor has inspired people that you can do anything. Taylor figured out how to overcome challenges and push her limits. Taylor is a historical trailblazer. Taylor Allison Swift.
I'll show you. I think there's only one more, right?
Yeah, so that was kind of that bridge pace where the kids went from telling their own personal story now to sharing that biography.
Yeah.
And then there's one more little clip.
An amazing person, Lindsay Vaughn, who had to show perseverance to overcome their own challenges. Before we start, though, let me tell you my definition of perseverance. In my opinion, perseverance is when you don't believe you can do something, even though you really can. You just need to try harder. Now, here's a story about how I learned what perseverance really is. So tell me a time where you persisted or you showed perseverance and you got through your challenge. So I was at my house on my jungle gym, and I wanted to swing from the bars with no hands, but I kept on getting scared that I was going to fall and hurt myself. Were there anyone to help you with that challenge that you had? Yeah, but later I had to ask my friend Mackie, but I'll tell you about that soon. So what did your friends or Maggie do? So I put a plan to hang from the jungle gym with my right hand only. When I finished that, I used my left only. Then my friend Maggie, as I was talking about, helped me. The plan was I was going to hang from the bars with no hands. She would be there to catch me if I fell. And I didn't fall. I did it. So if there was someone who had the same challenge that you had, what will you say to them so then they could accomplish that goal? Well, they should get a friend to help because teamwork makes the dream work.
All right. That was so
that
cute.
was a good example of one of the kids having been interviewed by me starting to take over.
Right.
And he really didn't have a script. I didn't give him a list of questions to ask. He was just really asking the same questions that I had asked him.
Yeah. It was so good. It was you could clearly hear all that went into that. I think the practice or the production of it They're so clear. It's and these are final products, right? So they feel very polished, but it took a ways to get there, I bet, in terms of going back, listening to yourself, maybe even re-recording it, and coming up with that really smooth cadence of the way we're speaking, and asking questions, waiting for the interviewer to ask the question, responding to the interview. Like, these are things that if you don't do this, like, you don't understand how it is actually a skill to do that.
You're interviewing us now, and I interview people. It's a skill.
Right.
It's a real skill. And then another fun thing that you probably don't notice is they want to put all these sound effects and noise, but then
I noticed,
I know, but then that's so loud sometimes that you can't hear them, and learning the balance of the noise. But then some of them, which I don't think we get any, they put sounds at the right places. Like, some of them are getting so good at these sounds. Like, I don't even do that in my own work because that takes a lot of extra time, and
it does.
They really put in the time.
They do.
They really do.
Yeah.
And it shows how motivating it is, and those things are skills with editing something, right? And that's even another set of skills that you're teaching, and how to produce the emotional connection, right? Because that's what we talk about, producing a piece of media. There's going to be, you want to draw your viewers or your listeners in, and adding these flourishes of music or sound effect, creating it at the right time, putting it at the right time of what you're talking about or what question you're answering, or it's a transition piece. It all lends itself to this piece of media that's going to be capturing the attention of somebody to listen to you, to what you're sharing. And so I heard some of that in there, right? There were some flourishes and the transitions in the music and the fade, and which is very cool to see. It's an impressive project, and it was awesome to hear some of those examples. So thank you for sharing.
And then they used another product, not yours, because you don't have it. They used Canva, and they designed podcast logos. No, they designed a podcast logo that they felt like was representative of their episode of this podcast. And did you learn about the magic AI features, and they were playing around with that? But that's a whole other skill, like visually representing the story that you're trying to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just, I just want to say, again, thank you for sharing all of this. And it's clear that there's an intention and meaning behind the decisions you make on these projects for your students. And you can hear the outcomes of what you're doing, right? You can hear the practice and the hard work that goes into it. I was going to say see, but we can't see it. You can hear it though, right? And you can visualize through your story what they went through to get there, and how important it was to highlight the learning process, and to provide all of these scaffolds and ways that they could access not only the technology, but the knowledge that they needed in order to pull this off.
And then what we love to do when we use WeVideo for a lot of this too is we love to have them reflect on their learning. So this was just a podcast example, but we might ask them to do it after. We ask them to share like their big takeaways from this, like sort of like that little interview we saw in the beginning. But we love to capture those things so that when we present at conferences, we love to share their words and their work and their learning process. So we use WeVideo, and they love screencasting. They screencast all the time, or they just use the video component, and we love capturing their reflections, right?
Yes. Go ahead, Marina. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree. It's been really a fun platform for them. I've been really, again, digging into playfulness in the classroom and where does it exist. And I think that kids they're doing like really hard work, but I think they're also playing in a way. And I think they really appreciate having opportunities to show their learning and their creativity and how they can apply skills in these ways.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that so well today. And I think that's a good chance to kind of take us home here. And as you mentioned, Alana, you show a lot of this at conferences, and we have the biggest conference coming up in a few weeks, in just 3 weeks time. And what's very cool about having this episode today is we get to promote also that you are going to be sharing a lot of this work at our booth, at our WeVideo booth at ISTE. And I know we changed times, and I didn't hear yet if Marina was also going to be there. Marina, were we getting you for that day too?
TBD. We'll let you know.
Okay, so
we'll let you know. We're trying.
Come and see if Marina is going to be there on Tuesday the 25th at 4 p.m. And I'll put the information up here. If you are a WeVideo subscriber, we're going to blast out all kinds of information about ISTE. But if you're viewing us today live, from whichever streaming platform you're using to view this episode. We are going to be at ISTE at booth number 2200. And Alana will be joining us for sure. Hopefully, Marina, cross my fingers. It would be great to have both of you. Tuesday, 6:25 at 4 p.m. at booth 2200. You're going to hear a lot more about this project and see more student examples than we had time to show here today. We'll use that time to show a ton of student artifacts.
Yeah.
You can come in and meet these amazing educators in real life and hang out with us then. But until then, thank you so much. To the both of you again for coming on. Thank you out there for viewing us today. We've got 2 more episodes ahead of the ISTE conference featuring guests that will also be presenting in booth with us. We have Erica Sandstrom will be on next week presenting on gratitude practices using WeVideo. And the following week, we welcome Heather Brown onto the show, who will share all the different kinds of projects she does, also at the elementary level. And they will also be appearing at the WeVideo booth at ISTE. So please come join us for those. You can stream us on YouTube, youtube.com/@WeVideo. You can go and register for our StreamYard content, wevideo.com/webinars. There's tons of ways to access all of this amazing content that we have for you ahead of ISTE and then ahead of the summertime. But again, thank you to the both of you. Is there any parting words you would like to share with our audience before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much for having us. We love WeVideo. We're big fans. We do much more than just podcasting. So if you want to see what WeVideo is like in action, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to share our work.
And what's the best way that folks can get in touch with you?
I mean, any social media. I'm Alana Winnick on any social media. I think I personally use X and LinkedIn most, but I'm on all of them. And Marina is new to LinkedIn, but she's on there now too. So
I just joined a couple months ago.
So
Congratulations.
X is her platform of choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's Lombardo Teach there.
Lombardo Teach. Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Let me.
And mine is just at Alana Winnick on all platforms. Nice and easy.
So like this. For you?
Something's blocking it, so I can't. Oh yeah, I see it. Yep.
Okay. So reach out to Alana with that handle on all social platforms. And then for Marina, platform of choice being X or Twitter. I can't give up the name Twitter. I don't know why. M Lombardo Teach on Twitter. So please reach out to them and follow along. And again, thank you so much for coming on today. And for you all out there, we'll see you next week. But until then, happy creating. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.